Yes, and good morning. Gene Autry wishing you back in the saddle. Good morning this morning as we're here with Darrell Skiles from South Central Regional Stockyards and his special guest, Eric Meusch, livestock specialist with Extension, and they're here to tell you all about things in agriculture this morning. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Bob. A lot of good things going on.
There are.
It's a great time to be in agriculture. Great time to be here in Dick County and in agriculture, and good time to be in the cattle business. We've had another good sale up at South Central Regional Stockyards this past week. Cattle were probably the feeder steers. I think we'll get into more specifics here after a while, but the cattle were for sure $10, $15, $7 to $10, $15 a hundred higher, and we didn't think they probably was going to get much higher than what they had been, but the buyers rolled in, the cattle rolled in, excellent quality, of course, from throughout our region, and buyers love coming to a sale where there's lots of good cattle. And,
Oh, absolutely.
So good market. The market's very good. The weather's very good. We could actually use a little more rain, but there's people trying to put hay up right now, so let's have a week or two of good hay and weather and then have some rain set in. But at any rate, right now it's a good time to be in the cattle business, and we're having some excellent sales. Got some excellent sales scheduled here for June coming up. But in the meantime, I do have a special guest here, Eric Meusch, University of Missouri-Columbia Livestock Extension Specialist, and works out of Dent County here, based out of Dent County, serves a number of counties, correct, Eric?
Yep. Good morning. A number of counties.
Yep. So at any rate, here a couple of weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago maybe when you were on, I don't remember now, but we talked about coming up was the Show Me Select bred heifer program. There's these programs are run through the state and through Extension, and the committees and the areas work together. Producers put these on, and we hosted one of these up at South Central Stockyards this past Saturday, and it was for heifers bred to calve in the fall.
Yep.
And so that sale was held, and some about 95 just super quality heifers throughout the sale. And I'm going to let Eric get into more specifics about what all came in as for what all it takes to be a part of that program, and what all these heifers have had and done and so forth, and then kind of get into summarizing the sale. But I thought we had a good sale. Not as high as what we would like to see, considering the price of cattle and so on, but because it's been so dry and things, I think it's really holding back the price on some of these replacement cattle right now compared to what they would be. Would you agree, Eric?
I think so. I mean, it was a great sale in terms of what was offered. They were all fine sets of heifers. People were concerned about the drought last year.
Yeah.
The drought that took place last summer sort of made an impact on people's point of view. No one wants to have to sell cattle,
Sure.
because of a drought, and people get worried about feeding cattle because of a drought. But one of the things we talked about was, a drought's a good time to cull your herd, get rid of those cows that aren't making you money. And we were hoping that people would be ready to add some cows that are going to make them money.
Right.
And that's what these Show Me Select heifers represent. We live in an age where high information cattle, or what they call high information cattle, are kind of where the industry's going. And these Show Me Select heifers definitely represent that high information
Yeah, there's a lot
cattle.
of information with them.
So there's several steps to producing them. They do pre-breeding exams, pelvic measurements. They follow strict vaccination protocols. They can only be bred to bulls that meet certain EPDs, especially in terms of calving ease.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of the Tier 2 heifers, they also are sired by bulls that meet certain EPD requirements and percentage requirements. So these heifers are backed by information about themselves as individuals, their parentage, and they've gone through all the protocols as far as pregnancy. A lot of them will have fetal sexes. They'll have the calving date nailed down. You can buy a set of heifers sometimes that are all scheduled to calve on the same day and all have the same sex calves. And so it's amazing what is on offer at these Show Me Select heifer sales. I was getting ready for this sale, and we were putting the pins together at the sale barn. And by the way, South Central is a great barn to work with for a sale like this, and I'll get into that in a minute. But the last step in bringing these heifers to the sale is a state grader has the last say of what heifers are in and what heifers are out. And we were visiting back there, looking at the heifers while he was grading them. And he's been involved with the program since the beginning. And this is something that's hard to see when you go to one sale. But he said over the years, even though the requirements for the heifers haven't changed that much, there's always been high standards, but the quality has ratcheted up every year.
Yeah.
And that's part of the bigger picture of what this Show Me Select offers cattlemen. There's just a constant ratcheting up and increasing in quality of the cattle herd in general. These heifers this year were just about as uniform. There wasn't a flaw among them.
And that grader, if it's who I think it is a very knowledgeable cattle producer.
He is very knowledgeable.
Purebred producer, cowman.
Yep.
Knows the cattle.
He
business.
knows how to look at a cow.
Yes.
And, everything from disposition to conformation, structural soundness, any sort of flaws that should have been weeded out before the sale. Sometimes they'll make it to the sale barn. None of these heifers got thrown out. They were all as good as can be. And he had a lot to say about that. In the past, they will have to cull them, but this was an outstanding set of heifers.
I noticed and had the thought when you mentioned the fact we're in the informational age about buying these cattle. The last bull I bought had about 5 different standards that he'd met. One of them being Show Me Select. He's good enough for Show Me Select heifers. He's a heifer bull. That's the kind of information we think back about when Darrell was a student and I started teaching. My goodness, just to have weaning weights was an accomplishment. And today, well, just looking a while ago, DNA tests the cleanest and easiest you can get. We're up to now where you can get those DNA records on every animal and trace that lineage as far back as you want to. Tier 2 heifers, I had not heard that term before until Saturday, and I thought Kendra Graham did an excellent job of explaining, just as you did, Eric, about what a Tier 2 heifer was, and the fact that they were sired by a bull that met all those standards. So it's quite interesting, the progress in the cattle industry over the last few decades.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. You couldn't make it up to the sale, but you were at home watching it on
That's
DV
exactly
auction.
Right. Yep. DV auction is a neat way to follow. I know when New Day Genetics had their sale, that was on DV auction. You can follow every Wednesday. Follow South Central's auction every Wednesday on DV auction. We're going to sound like a little commercial for DV auction, but it's free to utilize. You just do have to register for it, and the video is not super for them, depending on the location. It varies, but you can figure out some information about the animals. Plus, you get to hear what the sale prices are, and the auctioneer always is, or someone there is sharing lots of different information, like the Show Me heifers. They were giving all that data as those heifers came in. You knew whether what sex the calves were that the heifers were carrying. It's somewhat phenomenal, especially for an old person like me.
And I think cattlemen have to look for every opportunity they can, and I don't think anyone's got got bottomless pockets in terms of how much money they can spend. But everyone should look for every little opportunity that they can afford to increase the quality of their cattle.
Absolutely.
And I talked with Dave Patton quite a bit about this, getting ready for this sale. The cattle industry right now is just as much about quality as it is quantity.
Yep.
And to only think in terms of quantity, whether it's pounds or head or whatever, and disregard quality isn't keeping up with the state of the industry. So quality should be part of everyone's decision. I mean, we're in cow-calf country. Missouri is a cow-calf state. We need to think about our bulls. We need to think about our heifers. We need to think about the quality of the calves that we're sending. And that's one reason Dave Patton told me that he enjoys hosting this sale, and they do a great job with this sale, by the way. But he wants to sell good calves. Mm-hmm. And so by getting good quality, by having these good quality heifers in the community, it just reinforces the fact that the quality of the cattle coming out of Missouri over the years has just been ratcheting up year after year, and that's just going to be the way of the future as well.
I can tell you the quality of the cattle in our barns up at South Central. I've been up there. I mean, I helped up there years ago I worked as a field rep for the stockyards back years ago before I ever went on county commission back in 2007. But before that, I worked as a field rep, and since then I would help the barn on Wednesdays if I didn't have meetings and stuff. But what I'm getting at is the quality of the cattle I can see when we're having some good runs of feeder cattle. The quality of the feeder cattle in there coming from all parts of our trade area, which is all the way from down here and even further south here on up to Jeff City and beyond, and west over to the Lebanon area, and east over to the Washington County and Franklin County area. The quality of the feeder cattle has just increased, and what gets me really is kind of is the uniformity.
Yep.
and top-notch cattle, regardless even of breed. I mean, I'm saying across the breed. We're talking about Angus, Black Angus, Red Angus, Herefords,
Yep.
Hereford crosses, and the Shars, crosses, and all these, and the Sim Angus, Sim crosses. The quality has just increased exponentially, it seems like, over the years, and we have a big bunch. You can just see that, and that's what does attract those buyers, buyers that want to come down to buy cattle to send to Iowa and Illinois and Nebraska and Kansas.
Well, and something that came to mind to me as you were talking there, Darrell, is the reputation of South Central Regional Stockyards is a long-term reputation. It's not anything just developed in the last few years. I can remember in the 1970s, about the time you were a student, that we had friends in northeast Missouri that would come clear to Vienna to buy stockers to take back to North Missouri to run during the summer on their summer pasture to sell, because the quality was here in South Central Missouri, and South Central Regional brought together a good set of cattle clear back in the 70s. It's a long-term relationship that's been developed.
Before I forget, we mentioned Tier 1 heifers, which meet the standard requirement for the bull that they're bred to, the Tier 2 heifers that carry the pedigree of their sire as well. There is one more level of Show Me Select heifer, and this is worth mentioning, and that's the Show Me Plus heifer, and she comes with genomic EPDs.
Oh.
And so several of those heifers offered not only met those other requirements, but also had genomic EPDs. All of the bulls you use have to have genomic EPDs, but some of these heifers, on offer will have those genomic EPDs. They meet that Show Me Plus category, and what that does is, rather than the EPD, which is statistical analysis of that individual's pedigree, to sort of rank them in their breed, it basically provides more resolution to those EPDs. True SIBs will have the same EPDs, just based on how EPDs are calculated. You take the genomic EPDs of two true SIBs, and they're going to be different, just because of genetic variability. The statistics used in EPDs won't show that, but the genomic EPDs will show that. And so that really drills down to some details about those individual animals. I just wanted to mention that because that gets overlooked sometimes.
It does, yeah.
And this is all offered, of course, by the breed associations. And the breed associations, I guess, have been really important in ratcheting up this quality of the cattle.
Oh, yeah.
So all of that is on offer at these Show Me Select heifer sales.
There was, do you have an idea what percentage of these heifers were artificial bred? There was 95 heifers in the sale.
I do know exactly
correct?
how many. 58% of these heifers were AI bred.
I knew that was over half. So that'd be AI bred. That'd be bred to bulls that you and I couldn't even ever afford to hardly buy.
That we couldn't.
We could never afford to own, let alone maybe not even afford to own by sons of. But anyway.
And I will say the natural service bulls, and I had the luxury of going around and working with all these producers getting ready for this sale. People are using some awful nice natural service bulls as well.
Yeah.
So, and all that information was right in front of you. The information about whether it was an AI bull or a natural service bull, et cetera, et cetera. So So, but there was a lot of AI used. It sort of is disaggregated, so you can look and see what the averages are as far as AI and what the averages are as far as natural service. But
Now, breed-wise, we had Angus, straight Angus, purebred Angus heifers.
we had
crossbred.
some registered Angus. We had some registered limousines.
Mhm.
We had a lot of black baldies.
Yeah.
We had some red baldies, and in fact, the second highest selling heifer of the sale was a red baldy.
Yes.
Sold at the end of the sale.
She was the
one.
last heifer to go, and man, that was on fire.
Yep.
She did really well, and she was a nice heifer, of
Yeah.
course.
I think $2,800.
Yep,
or something like that for the
$2,800, yep.
Last heifer to sell,
Yep.
all by herself. Well,
And
well,
one of
yeah, baldy.
the registered heifers beat that.
Yes.
The top of the sale was 3,000, and really, when you think about it, for what was on offer, those were bargains.
I thought so too, because looking and comparing to another sale I attended recently, the average was probably $400 below the sale that
Yep.
I attended, and very similar heifers, not maybe meeting as many standards as Show Me Select heifers, but excellent quality heifers. And in fact, there were some calves in that sale that I had actually raised, and it sold and then turned around and sold through that sale. And there were a lot of $2,500
Yep.
heifers in that particular sale. In fact, I think
Yep.
their average was probably right there. So it's all about, it's a seller's market right now. If you can get the right
Yeah.
two buyers together, it just takes off
Yeah.
and goes wild.
Well, so it would seem we've had 5 Show Me Select heifer sales so far. We have one left, Palmyra. That'll be this week. The sale in Vienna averaged $2,100, a little over $2,100, which is a little bit less than a lot of people were hoping for, especially the producers, because they work awful hard on these heifers. Joplin, their average was a little over $2,300. There were a couple sales that averaged a little over 22, and then the one in Kingsville was just a little over 2,000. So as far as where the Show Me Select prices have settled in, that's kind of where they're sitting, and I think it reflects on some of that sentiment we were talking about at the beginning of the show, that I think people are still worried about the rain, they're still worried about hay not being in the barn, they're still worried about, the drought that hit them last year.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, we'll see. If you look at what feeder calf prices are doing, if you look at the basic formula of what you can pay for a bred heifer in comparison to a 500-pound steer, these were bargains, given what the market's doing.
Yeah, you got a lot of feeder steers. We'll get into that in a little bit, but you got a lot of feeder steers bringing, at a bottom end, $1,200, $1,300, and
Yep.
$1,500 for steers, $1,600. Futures price has gone up for this fall up to around $2.40 a pound on feeder futures on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So things look pretty good on the feeder cattle price extended on out. But everybody's got to deal with what can they stand as far as with the grass situation and the hay situation, and with the frost and the cold weather and things, the hay thing doesn't look as good as a
It's
normal
just
year
not
should.
quite got the
So
volume we've had in the
people-
past
yeah.
when we go to harvest that hay. But right now, the undergrowth's pretty good. So
Yep.
if we could get hay put up, I'd like to get ours put up in the next week, but I know it's not going to happen.
I could be wrong, but it seems like it's been a couple of years since people have made much hay in May.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's good to see some hay made in May, to tell
Yeah.
you the truth. You don't want it to be dry, but
No, but we are actually making it because of those cold temperatures
Right.
and lack of rainfall we had back in April, and because it's getting mature.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, it
It's
is.
seed now.
It's at that haying stage. It needs to be harvested.
Need to be cut. Well, just a kind of a rumor that is flying around is a lot of bred cows being sold are getting slaughtered. So there's a strange cow market right now as
It is.
to you've got the feeder prices on the increase, and people still aren't keeping cows. So I think the dust will settle eventually and things will take off. But right now there's still a little bit of schizophrenia out there as to where this cattle situation's
there's
going to
some
go.
cow culling going on.
Yep.
But part of that's driven to the fact that these old cows, even you're talking big heavy cow, real high yielding cow bringing a dollar.
That's true.
Right at a dollar or
That's
more.
true.
So you take a cow bringing 12, 13, 14, $1,500.
Yep. Hard to pass up.
And if you're looking at a little concerned about your pasture situation and where the hay thing's going to be, a lot of folks kind of looking at kind of peeling back to that base herd. And
Well, and you
letting
can sell
those
some of those big old cows and put a little bit more money in the pot and take home an updated heifer that's bred top of the notch.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
Although there's still heifers out there, but
Yeah.
that's one strategy to consider.
So anyway, it was a good, but overall a pretty good sale.
It was a great sale. It was a
Great,
great sale. Yeah.
Great quality throughout. How many different producers was there? Was it 9?
There were a
10?
dozen producers
A dozen.
that offered. There were 95 on the program. Only 94 sold because one didn't make it to the barn. She had some issues, and so he knew she wasn't going to make it, so he didn't bring her. She had some health issues last minute. So 94 sold. They went to 18 different buyers. 2 of those buyers were on. No, 2 lots went to DV auction. I think we had 3 buyers registered on DV auction. 2 lots went on DV auction. The buyers were from all over South Central, probably from Jeff City on down. A couple lots went to Arkansas. There was a buyer there from Arkansas. I think 40 some odd registered buyers there. 18 of them took cattle home. So
Good.
It was a good sale.
Yep.
It was a good sale.
I think didn't have one buyer though, about 30 of the heifers?
There was
30 to
one
32?
buyer that we wish everyone was like him. He was he was wanting some heifers, and he had I think he bought 32 head.
Yeah.
And it's amazing if I knew a lot of those heifers by then. I knew a lot of those lots by the time, and he bought a pretty nice. Those 32 head of heifers he took home are going to be great together.
Yeah, be an eye-popping field. Of
That'll be
heifers,
an
yeah.
eye-popping field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a gentleman. He and his neighbor bought 9 altogether, and I took them home for him down towards Alton, and they were very proud of the heifers that they got.
Yep.
And
A lot of and I don't have the statistics on this, but I could get it. A lot of those are repeat buyers.
Mhm.
I mean, people, once people have taken these heifers home, they'll often come back and buy more. So we see that at every sale, a lot of repeat buyers.
the combination of the quality, along with the disposition. 'Cause I was back in the barn with them
Yep.
there as we got them out. The disposition was great on all of them. That's worth a lot.
Oh, the graders said they used to send you up the fence
Yeah.
back when this program started. But boy, you could.
Yeah.
These were a nice, quiet set. And the disposition is one thing in general that our cattle have benefited from some better breeding.
You work it back in the barn with barns or wherever, and sorting a lot of cattle week after week. You really come to appreciate nice disposition cattle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of these heifers sold as singles.
Yeah. I
And
know.
this is kind of a little bit of detail. Guys won't send their heifers through as singles if they're worried about their disposition.
That's true.
And we
Yeah.
we discuss that with guys that if they want to sell a single, make sure that she's not going to get high-headed. Even a gentle heifer will get high-headed if she's in a ring
Sure.
by herself.
Right.
These guys were sending these heifers through as singles. Not all of them, but there were several lots of singles, and they were just as cool as can be.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of confidence in your cattle.
Yeah.
Sure is. They're a lot more comfortable if they've got a buddy.
If
with
they've
them.
got a buddy,
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
We
the
all are.
Stockyards, South Central Stockyards, was pleased to host the sale, and
Yeah.
very proud to host it. And it's a good group of people with good cattle and going to good people.
And I will say one more plug for South Central. I've helped at other Show Me Select heifer sales. South Central does more of. They basically handle it all. We show up with the information, the lots, as far as Ross bringing them in, keeping them sorted, pinning them up. They are so hands-on from start to finish from when the sale starts. They help organize the DV auction. Laura in the office. They make it so easy for Extension to organize that sale there that it's appreciated for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Well, appreciate the chance to host it for you, and hope the producers enjoy their heifers. I know they're going to. I know the fella I talked to that got the 9. Even he was saying that it's sure going to be the 9. He had about 30 or 40 more bred heifers of his own, but he
Yep.
wanted a few more, and said boy, he said he didn't know. The only thing was he didn't know how they was going to make his other 30 heifers.
I know.
Back there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Anyway. But you had some other information. We did enjoy hosting the sale up at South Central
One more
Stockyards.
thing about the sale. If you are interested in Show Me Select program, either as a buyer or a producer, get in touch with me at Extension.
That number?
573-729-3196. Especially if you're interested in producing these heifers, you have to start early. So
Yeah.
the sooner you get in touch, and even if you're just sort of toying with it, I can discuss it with you and we can think what you might have to offer and whether it's worth pursuing.
If you're thinking about having some in next May sale, you better be on the ball right now.
Yeah,
getting
you
that
better
deal.
be thinking
Yeah.
about it now.
Yep.
Yeah. But one more thing I wanted to mention, and I think this is important too. We talk about the cattle industry and whatnot. Last night, the Dent Phelps Cattlemen Association had their scholarship picnic, and the Dent Phelps Cattlemen Association. I don't know, how many people out there listening are members, but everything they do goes back into the community. So whether it's scholarships or whether it's supporting the Ozark Cattlemen's Beef Days, they volunteer their time for a lot of events. They organize speakers, and all of it's done by the board, which is volunteering their time to try to provide a service to the community. And last night they awarded 4 scholarships. And this is what they do with the bulk of the money that they do raise.
And we raise that money. A lot of that money is raised at our annual meeting through our auction of items donated by businesses, individuals every spring.
Yes.
Have a great auction, generate revenue dollars and membership dollars, but most of it is going to be
Most
from
of
that,
it comes from the
from
auction.
that auction.
The
Pies,
auction.
cakes that are donated,
Yep.
services, products, different things. Yep.
And
That's a
so
great
all that money that gets raised
stays here.
stays in the community. Even the educational program we had earlier in the year, it was potluck chili. I mean, people volunteered to bring in chili. They try to provide services to the community. They're not trying to raise money, other than the auction for the scholarships. But they did award 4 scholarships last night. Can I go through the recipients
yes,
real
sir.
quick? Olivia Wisdom, Gracie Berger, Braden Hedrick, and Hannah Haas all got scholarships, and they will offer, award 2 to 4 to 3 scholarships every year. So I just wanted to mention that. I think
Those
that's
scholarship amounts were.
I forget those details. I think with 4.
I thought I knew, but I don't want to say without.
Well,
knowing.
I'm sure. But I think with 4, it may have been they weren't able to increase it. They're always looking to increase those scholarships, but if there's a lot of applications, the pie can only be sliced so many times. But I just wanted to mention that. I think that the cattlemen offer a great service to the community, and anyone that gets the flyer in the mail for a cattleman event, please consider attending. I've seen so many of the counties I work in, these local organizations start to fizzle, and they lose traction, and people quit showing up, and before long they just sort of
And the
go
Dent
away.
Phelps County Cattlemen is an affiliate of the Missouri Cattlemen's
It is
Association.
affiliate of the Missouri-
We have a director sits on the board.
That's right.
Of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association. So they
Yep.
work with them. We work on legislative issues. They're involved. They have Cattlemen's a day at the Capitol almost every Wednesday when the legislature is in session. They do a lot to promote the cattle business and the cattle industry.
They do a lot to promote the cattle business and industry, and I think the Missouri Cattlemen's Association, they do more than people realize
Yes.
as far as legislative sort of lobbying and staying current with different events. And it's such a big industry in Missouri that it is important that we are represented
And they're
in
involved in
Jefferson
state
City.
and national issues.
Sure.
They don't, because the national stuff trickles
Sure.
down. So, yeah.
So this our local association, we're just lucky we have an active one here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to encourage people to say thanks if you run into a board member, and participate when you can.
And anybody that would want to join again could call Extension office.
You
and
can
they
call
they
Extension
could
office, and we can get you
line 'em up.
information about how to sign up and how to meet some folks if you're interested in attending these events. So
I have several very good meetings every year.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it just starts with brainstorming locally. What are people interested in? What can we do? How can we provide a service to the community? And
Yep.
and that's really what this organization is all about.
I'm going to have to call up the extension, make sure I'm still on that mailing list. I
Did you
didn't
not get
that
it, Bob?
mailing. No, I
Yeah.
didn't get that mailing.
Uh-oh.
Last mailing I got was about the chili supper and
Well, and I
the
will
meeting at that.
say, Extension doesn't send out things by mail very much, but this, the Cattlemen's Association insists that things go out in the mail, and I personally prefer to get things in the mail.
Yeah, I do too.
And
Email's okay, but I'd rather get it in the mail.
so you should check that, Bob, because these
I
still
will.
do anything with Cattlemen's will
Yeah.
go out in the actual mail.
I've been a member
Snail
for
mail.
Snail mail, good
number
mail.
of years now.
Snail mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, it will get there, most likely.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Very good. Eric, anything else?
No,
Do appreciate
no,
you
I'm,
coming in.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in, and there's always something to talk about when it comes to livestock and cattle. So any opportunity, I'm happy to come in and talk with you guys. I always enjoy it.
Well, we'll give you a shout again. We may be looking at some other issues going on that people need to be aware of and
Yep.
think about that's happening in the production of our cattle and so forth, so on. Or if you have something that goes on or something flares up or something you think we probably ought to get on the radio and talk with folks about, give me a shout.
Well, we've got a couple
We're pretty
opportunities to
flexible
get on the
here.
radio. We've got the extension segment,
Yeah,
and as well as you now, Darrell. So
Yeah.
so we'll definitely take advantage of that.
we'll do what we can to keep people apprised of what's happening.
Yep, good.
But
Well,
again,
thank
we
you.
do appreciate you coming in. Appreciate Dent County, Dent Phelps County Cattlemen's, Missouri Cattlemen's. Matter of fact, one of the largest consigners to the Show Me Select sale that we were talking about was Mike Deering.
Mike Deering.
Who is executive director of the Missouri Cattlemen's
Yep.
Association. And
He had
14 or
Several.
15.
Yeah.
yeah, he
16.
had 14. He had in the mid-teens. I
He had
can't
that
remember
high-
the deal. He had
He
that
had
high
mostly
sell-
black and black baldy heifers, but he had that high dollar.
He had that high
black,
selling red
black
baldy.
face. Yeah.
That red baldy, and those are all home raised heifers.
Yeah.
So Mike knows a thing or two about cattle,
He and his family do a great
and
job.
he works really hard for us at the Capitol too. So
Absolutely. He
Yeah.
stays on top of it.
Yeah.
He and I were visiting about some legislative successes this past year that Missouri Cattlemen's had, and they were very proud of. So, matter of fact, I may have somebody come in and visit about some of those things that happen legislative-wise.
have Mike come in
affecting-
sometime.
Affecting agriculture. So, yeah.
Offer to buy him breakfast and see
Yeah.
if he'll come down.
Yeah. We'll get something done.
Yep, good. Well, thank you.
All right.
Eric, thank you very much.
Yep.
for
We'll talk a
joining
little
us
bit
this
about
morning.
the market here the last week or so and what's happening. And
All right, that'd be good. Add that in there.
okay. Once again, I thank Eric for coming in and providing some timely information about things going on. and
Absolutely.
what's happening. But as I said earlier, we did have a very good market this week. You know, this is a great time to be in the cattle business and be selling cattle. We had another good run of about 24, almost 2,500 head. And I'll just say here, and you know I've mentioned this before, the market report that comes out is done by a USDA, Missouri Department of Agriculture market news reporter who sits up there, and he's independent of anybody at the barn. They draw this up, and his comments were that the feeder steer for this week, that the feeder steers were $7 to $15 per hundred higher on most of our feeder steers. Our feeder heifers, he called, if they were over 450 pounds, probably $4 to $8 a hundred higher. Slaughter cows, and we talked about these cows, a lot of cows coming to the barns and showing up and going to slaughter. Slaughter cows were $3 to $7 higher. And of course, the demand was very good. He said, and his comment was that we had another outstanding feeder offering this week. Lots of top quality calves in town from some of our leading producers. Fed cattle, of course, helped the market there. That fed cattle this week, fat cattle market was trading higher again as packers struggle to find enough market-ready cattle. So just to get in for you to do a little bit of talk about some of these prices here. These 450 to 500 pound cattle, an average, and these are medium and large number one muscle calves, 472 pound average weight. These calves' average price on them was $2.84 a pound. Now these are the top end,
Yeah.
medium
best
large,
in the draw.
no dairy influence, no odd deals there, but the most desirable. You know, that's $1,340 a head. And I'd say predominantly on them, we had a good number of them that were weaned even that size. Now, we talk about weaned and unweaned, or we talk about unweaned and value added, and there is a big difference. Let me show you here. That was 472 pounders at $2.84. Here we had some that were just a little heavier, 491 pounds, $2.61, and those were unweaned. So you're talking a pretty good spread between weaned and unweaned. You go on down here on some of the, get on into the heavier weights, more like what most people might be selling. And again, you don't, people generally get to thinking, you got to have a potload of calves in order to get the top prices so on. Well, it really isn't necessarily different. It does help if you got a potload of really top-end cattle. But here we're looking at, just for comparison, 7 head of 525-pound calves, $261. Those were unweaned. $2.61 a pound, that's unweaned. 545-pounders were $282, but those were value added. Value added, again, goes back to calves that have had 2 rounds of shots. That second round of shot, or one of them rounds of shots, needs to be the modified live for the respiratory vaccine. But you're looking at almost a 20-cent per pound spread, and you're talking about on a 500-pound calf, $100 to wean and get them their shots. Here we go on up as we get a little heavier, 573 pounders that were unweaned at $238 a pound. 500, and then we get on into some 6-weight cattle. Here we had like 6 heads, 645 pounders at $219 a pound, but that's still $1,412 a head right off the cow. Pretty good compared to what we looked at in years past. Some 607 pounders on these medium large number ones, again value added. Now the 645 pounders were $219. Now these were a little lighter, 607 pounds, but they were $265 a pound. And that's in the value added, but basically weaned at least 30, 45 days, 2 rounds of shots. And the spread on them was 260 to 265. Again, up here on, and we get on over into the medium and large. Number 1 and 2 muscled, which is still awfully good calves. Excuse me. We're looking at some of these cattle here still, unweaned calves, 535 pounders at $233 a pound, $1,246 a head. Some of these here, 615 pounders at $226 a head, $226 a pound, still $1,390 a head. Get on down into the heifers, these medium and large number 1 muscle heifers. Here was 7 head of unweaned heifers. 459 pounds at $232 a pound, which again still $1,065 a head. But we get on down here, 566 pounders at $238 a pound, $1,347 a head. I'm suspecting those, they didn't note it on the market report, but I'm suspecting those were probably value added, weaned, and vaccinated. $1,347 a head for those weighing 566. Here was some bigger 575 pound heifers, unweaned, kicked straight off the cow, $228 a pound, so 10 cents a pound less than some similar weight heifers up there. So again, probably I'd say due to the weaning and some shots, and even if they've had some shots, that will and the right vaccinations and a modified live, it'll help tremendously in the sale price of these animals. Basis just coming off the cow with no shots, no nothing, and things. It's
We can always tell, too, when we've got a market that's up, because we'll see that margin between heifer prices and steer prices narrow down.
Yeah.
It'll be wider when they're cheaper, but right now with the demand for heifers, you heard some of those prices very near the steer prices.
A lot of your better quality heifers will bring right up there with close to what some of those.
Good time to sell those good quality animals.
But again, as we were talking about on the, and we have a good slaughter cow market at South Central Stockyards, and these slaughter cows, as I think he noted, they were 3 to 7 higher. I think is what he called the slaughter cows. Your cows basically. Your cows are going to sell in 3 different ranges. You got 3 different grades on these cows: your breakers, your boners, and your lean. And that basically is just based on what their cutout is, what they'll dress. But the bulk of these higher dressing cows are going to sell somewhere, most of them in upper 80s, right up again 90, up to well over $1 on some high dressing cows. Big high dressing cows weighing 1,300 pounds. We're talking about $1.04 to $1.07. That makes some of those old big cows, if a person's a little worried about grass and worried about hay and things, they're looking pretty hard at some of those and They just want to make sure they have enough to get through the deal. Even the lean cows, most of them will be, when you're talking about down around 50 to 60 for a real pretty thin old cows, up to in the 70s and 80s still on some of those older, leaner cows,
Yeah.
70 to 80s. And still, you're talking about 1,000-pound cows at 75 cents, 750 to $800 a head for some of them old, some of those old, what I call last gasp heifers.
They're towards the end of their service.
But it's a drawing, for some of them to come to town. And slaughter bulls, and a person's talking about how much they can afford to go pay for a bull. Well, the slaughter bull prices are as good as they've been for a long time. We're looking this week at slaughter bulls in a range from 1,600 pounds up to about 2,000 pounds, selling in a range of somewhere around $1.10 or 15 up to right up $1.30, $1.31. Well, you take that $1.31 on a large 2,000-pound bull, that's a lot of dollars, that you could spend toward a better quality bull,
Absolutely.
young bull that'll get you through. So that kind of highlights where we was at in the market this week. The market's good. And, about the time we think it's probably hit its peak, and we probably don't stand much chance of it getting any better, and it's going to, somewhere along the line, it's going to back up a little bit, we know. But for right now, the futures just keeps working its way up. The numbers are in the favor for the cattle market. The drought has affected things, especially west of us, even more. But this drought's this dry spell across the country has had an effect. But what we're looking at as far as on prices here is simply because of the numbers and things from the drought over the last couple of years in those areas, particularly west of us, and the Oklahoma, Kansas, even Nebraska area, Colorado. Those areas have been hard hit. Those cow numbers were reduced pretty drastically, and that's kind of part of what's driving this thing. So.
And these beef prices do get a double whammy sometimes when we're talking about dry weather because, on the one count, just like we just talked about, question about how much hay, how much pasture we're going to have. But the other side of the coin is that row crop farmer that's raising that corn, soybeans, is going to go into that cattle feed. The dry weather is reducing or affecting their market, their yields, which in turn is going to affect the beef market. So it's a very complicated situation.
We are, and you're right. And the grain price and things affects this thing. As corn goes up, it'll generally cheapen cattle just a little bit because of the cost of gain goes up. Right now, the planting intentions looks like there's a lot of ground, a lot of corn gone in the ground. And actually, for the most part, they feel like the things look pretty good as far as for the corn crop. Now, it's a long time till that crop is made. As you know, Bob, you grew up in corn country, and it can look real good in May, and by July and August look a little rougher. But there's things are looking pretty good on the grain side of the thing. Cost of gain, basically that affects cost of gain. So there's a lot of optimism there, and a lot of these corn growers up in those corn growing regions in North Missouri and Iowa, Illinois, up there in Nebraska, they'll send their corn to grain through cattle. And they're very good at it. But they want the top end, they want quality, and the fact of the matter is the consumer, this thing has got, the consumer likes beef. There's nothing beats beef. Beef is king still in the I don't think anybody goes. And I don't mean to pick on a pork producer anywhere, anyway, but nobody goes to a big steakhouse to have a top quality chop. They want to, you like to have that steak, and it's good. And be quite honest, though, that burger market is awful good too. There's so many things that can be done, and that's part of why this cow thing is, and the bull thing. So it all fits together, and we try to do the best we can up at South Central Stockyards, marketing all of them, all classes of cattle. And but it sure is fun selling those very top quality cattle. Especially when the market's as good as it is now. We've got some sales lined up here for June. Again, these special feeder sales we'll be down probably a little bit on numbers this coming week with the holiday. We'll probably have several cows again. I suspect we'll have a few less feeders, but we'll have buyers there to buy the feeders that we have. There'll be no problem with that. But we're going to be cranked up having some special feeder sales again here in June 7th and 14th. There are a couple we have marked to probably have pretty good numbers and cattle. Now, the weather could throw a wrinkle in this if we end up with a siege of hot weather hit, and it's up in the 90s, mid-90s, upper 90s, 100, and high humidity, we might encourage folks to back off one of those and see if we can hit a cooler time that works out better for sellers and buyers if do that. So, but there is one thing about it, though. We are set up at South Central where we can, even under adverse weather, we can take very good care of the stock. We've got sprinklers out across the pens. We got shades. And one thing I've heard buyers say is that they felt we take as good a care of the cattle, and they bought them until they can get them on the trucks and get them hauled as any place where they are going to buy cattle. So we take a lot of pride in trying to take good care of the cattle, both as they come in and then as they leave too. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at and what's happening there.
Very good.
Do appreciate Eric coming in and reporting on the Show Me Select sale. And Bob, that about
it.
Wraps up what I had on that.
2 weeks.
So,
Let's see. You'll be back in 2 weeks.
Be
or what's
back
the
probably
plan?
around the second Friday in June, so we'll
Second.
be back around the 9th.
9th,
So
after that good sale on the 7th.
We'll have
You betcha.
We'll have another one under our belt. Probably a pretty good sale on the 7th. I don't see anything weather-wise that's going to come in and just really hurt us real bad. But
No.
a lot of good cattle out
Yep.
there. We've sold a lot, but there's still a lot of good cattle out there, Bob, as you know, and so we look forward to seeing them and look forward to seeing our friends and neighbors at the stockyards. And if you need any help, you need any questions at all, feel free to call the barn, 573-422-3305. Give me a call. My cell number is 573-308-5415. I'll be glad to arrange an on-farm visit, get the guys from the stockyards down, if we can arrange it, to visit with what you got and what their thoughts are on what would work out best for you marketing, or if you just need help getting some trucking lined up. We got some excellent truckers down here that will do a great job for you, and never had any complaints with the guys we've got hauling cattle, and they do a great job. And some of the guys we have hauling cattle will also be up there at the barn working on sale day. And I'll be there on sale day looking out for your consignment and just doing the best we can to take care of our customers. So if you need anything, call the barn, 422-3305, or give me a call, 308-5415. And otherwise, I'll see you around somewhere out here in town or out in the county, and or I'll see you at the stockyards, or I'll see you on the radio here in a couple of weeks.
All right, and that's been Darrell Skiles from South Central Regional Stockyards.